So there's sometimes there are raging arguments over veganism versus being an omnivore, and even some people who just want to be carnivores. And of course, um, people tend to be convinced that their solution is the only solution. And one of the things that I have failed to mention unintentionally is that there is no one solution for every human being. For example, the Lone Star tick carries a bacteria in it that if you're infected by that bacteria, your body will no longer be able to produce the enzyme that digests meat. And you can have anaphylactic shock as a result of eating meat. I know this because I worked with a woman rather, who actually had that very condition. Even eating a tiny amount of meat would cause her to be very, very ill. And that is not the only reason that some people can't eat meat. Like generally speaking, people with Crohn's disease, they're better off avoiding eating meat because meat tends to irritate their flesh more, or their digestive system more. However, there are conditions in which eating a plant-based diet, a vegan diet, true vegan diet, in the sense of it's being a healthful diet, um, or even an unhealthful one, is going to be something that you can't do. Now, for example, if your body cannot synthesize I believe it's carnitine, 1 in 30,000 people, I think it is, or something like that, cannot synthesize carnitine, and therefore you have two choices: you either supplement it somehow, or you eat meat. And but yeah, 1 in 30,000 people. That's not a significantly large number of people. Still, if you count how many people that is out of the 8 billion or so that live on the planet, it's a large number. Um, there are other people that have problems. Some people have problems digesting protein in plant products. Some people may have herpes, and that may cause problems. Some people may have certain kinds of allergies to soy or wheat, in which they may find it easier to deal with the problem of soy and wheat by avoiding plant-based products and just eating meat, animal products. And certainly that is one solution. However, you could just be more careful about what you buy. And admittedly, it is hard to avoid soy, wheat, and milk because these days those three things are in almost everything. But I wanted to share with you some information aside from that about people who are better off eating meat. So, if you are on dialysis, it can be difficult to get enough protein without getting too much phosphorus while you're eating meat. Now, you can have the same problem by consuming lots of dairy. So, you can take calcium tablets to try to prevent absorbing all that extra phosphorus from plants, but for some people, it's just easier to eat meat. There was on the website for Jack Norris, who is a registered dietitian, he talks about somebody he knew who thought his body did not produce enough cholesterol and it was causing him to pass out, and he was only okay if he would eat cheese, and cheese would prevent him from passing out. He and Mr. Norris never managed to figure out what exactly was going on, but then again, Mr. Norris is a nutritionist, not a doctor or scientist. A person named Audra in 2009 said that although she has soy allergy and gluten intolerance, she has been able to be a vegan. So it's not necessarily true. You have to be committed to it. Let's see. Interestingly, although Mr. Norris claimed that herpes could be a reason why you would need to be eating meat, there is a person named Kathy in 2009 who said that she had had herpes 2 for about 25 years, and she was taking acyclovir to suppress it for about 10 years, and that any time that she forgot to take her acyclovir, it would come out. And then went vegan a year prior to her message, and forgot to take her acyclovir, and she wasn't having a breakout, so she stayed off the drug, and she's only had one breakout in the almost year since then. So sometimes this guy doesn't really necessarily know enough, but that's not the reason I'm on this particular website. Is because I wanted to share with you comments from people who have to eat meat. On the same site, a different person suggested that because of food allergies, food sensitivities, and certain medical conditions like multiple sclerosis, they need to consume animal products for optimal health. And I don't know if that is true of multiple sclerosis, but there are some people who responded, and I did not entirely agree with Mr. Norris's response, but there are some people who indicated that they have to eat meat because they get sick if they don't. And so Sharon in 2013 wrote that she has ulcerative colitis, and she has to eat meats in order to keep it under control. Because if she doesn't, she's on 6 iron supplements a day and a very high iron rich diet, but if she doesn't also eat at least 2 servings of red meat a week, then her iron levels plummet. Another woman responded to her, and her name is Polly. She responded the next year and said that she was a vegetarian for 35 years, but after 4 years of severely debilitating medical conditions, corticosteroids, chemotherapy, operations, metabolic catabolism, and heavy-duty medical drugs, she was unable to thrive without having meat twice a day. It's not like she likes it, but she has no choice. She only eats fish and poultry. Her iron levels and B12 are fine, but one day without meat causes her to have severe catabolic exhaustion. In 2017, somebody named Rave said that they were diagnosed as highly sensitive as a child, which I assume that means that they're on the autistic spectrum, and so the person has always had trouble finding foods to eat. And his or her current diet is 10 different foods, 4 of which are meat, 2 are non-vegan, excluding candies and chocolates, which gives this person about 4 foods to eat. And this person apparently is very fussy. Fruit also gives this person stomach aches. If the person, for example, eats more than half a peach, they have stomach aches. And if they eat more fruit, they may even vomit. But that doesn't happen with meat. So, as I mentioned, if you get bitten by the Lone Star tick or other ticks that carry the same parasite or bacteria, you may end up not being able to digest meat. And so I think it's entirely believable that something similar could happen where you would not be able to digest certain kinds of plant matter that you would need to substitute for meat. Another person named Lily Willie in 2019, they cannot go for more than a few hours with having meat because they say they feel unstable mentally, emotionally, and physically. The person was cranky and depressed, and they were taking a multivitamin supplement, which if you're taking multivitamins, that could be a problem. Then when they eat even a little bit of meat, the person feels like, oh my God, they feel so much better apparently. Which I don't understand how a tiny piece of meat could do any good for somebody. However, this person has mild von Willebrand's disease, so it's kind of like hemophilia. Sorry, it is hemophilia. I forgot. Von Willebrand's is the other name for hemophilia. So it would make sense that, and this person also has occasional grand mal seizures. And so in this person's case, it definitely makes sense that they have to eat meat. And again, I just want to reiterate, I'm using Jack Norris's website because it has examples on it. But based on some of the responses that Jack has given people, like that person with the hemophilia, Jack clearly doesn't have enough education in medicine to be giving out advice on some of the topics that people are bringing up. So I don't recommend this website. So one of the best examples I can give you of multiple sclerosis is a doctor named Terry L. Walls, WAHLS. She developed multiple sclerosis, which she attributed to various factors, including exposure to pesticides on her parents' farm. And it was progressive, and she got to the point where she could barely function. She couldn't sit up. She could hardly eat. And she started to experiment with vitamins and diet. And she had been on paleo for a long time and it wasn't helping. However, she modified her paleo diet. She started doing electronic stimulation of her muscles and certain other things, including stress management and home exercise program. She modified the paleo diet. So her diet at that time that she was really honing in on what worked and was reversing her MS, because she started to go into remission and started to get to the point where she wasn't fatigued all the time. She was able to walk. She was actually able to get back into sports again. So she recommended, her study diet that she did had 3 cups of cooked green leafy vegetables, or 6 cups of raw, and 3 cups of raw or cooked sulfur-rich vegetables, and 3 cups of raw or cooked intensely colored fruits or vegetables, and then omega-3 oils, 2 tablespoons, animal protein, 4 ounces or more, and she focuses on fish and wild caught fish, because farmed fish, unless they're giving the fish the same kind of diet they would get in nature, the nutrient profile will be different. The vitamins and minerals available in farm-raised salmon is not going to be the same as the wild stuff, and therefore you're not going to get all the benefits you get from the wild caught. She also recommends organ meat. She eats beef liver on a regular basis. Now, again, please keep in mind this is specific to MS. I don't think that she recommends that her diet be used for everybody. It's what has worked for her to help her to make her MS go into remission. She also avoids gluten, dairy, and dairy has been connected to both MS and schizophrenia. And she also avoids eggs. Now that's another very specific situation. She also stopped consuming processed foods. The vitamins that she was consuming included methyl B12, methylfolate, vitamin D, and fish oil. She taught people in her study how to do meditation as well as massage and stretching exercises like gastrosoleus, hamstring, quadriceps, and erector spinae. One of the side effects of this study that she did was people who were overweight in the study lost weight and got to a healthy weight. And although this diet, of course, includes meat, she does highly recommend the vegetables. I mean, she was definitely pushing that. She also has mentioned that her diet has helped people with scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. Okay, and in regards to the previous comment on that dietitian's website, Norris's website, In the WGEJ, which is a journal of gastroenterology, there was a study done. It is titled "The Lifestyle Related Disease and Crohn's Disease Relapse Prevention by a Semi-Vegetarian Diet." And this revealed, that people who took the advice to go on a semi-vegetarian diet versus people who stayed on an omnivorous diet. And so by the end of the study, which lasted 2 years, 92% of the semi-vegetarian people were in remission with Crohn's disease. And that remission was 100% until a bit over the 600-day mark. Whereas for people who remained on their omnivorous diet, they dropped from 100% to around the 175th day, dropped to about a little bit over 80% in remission, and around the 300th day dropped to about 64% of them being in remission, and on around 350th day dropped to about 51% remission, and then by the 630th day perhaps, the number of those on the omnivorous diet dropped to about 25%. So, no, if you have Crohn's disease, you shouldn't be eating lots of meat. Now, on the Reddit for vegans, there were some people that made comments. And 7 years ago, someone named Lepa wrote the following. Someone I know has Crohn's, and when it's bad, she apparently has to maintain a nearly entirely plant-based diet. Someone else I know has some crazy gluten allergy and autoimmune issue, and she basically just eats greens and meat, and seemingly a lot of it is organ meat. My colleague was vegetarian or vegan almost her whole life when her body lost the ability to process protein from plant-based foods, and she got very sick. And so she had to, in other words, start eating meat again. To continue what this person wrote, another friend was vegetarian for 8 years and then got a serious staph infection from a biology lab and was hospitalized. Her doctors told her she needed to eat meat. Finally, I had left some comments on a YouTube video called Fat Fiction Full Movie for free because there was a bunch of nonsense in that movie. And after a while, I started getting these comments from somebody named Pippi Lotta. Now, Pippi is Pippi, and Lotta is Lotta. She was talking about appearance and intermittent fasting and muscle mass, and she was making some comments that just didn't make any real sense. She was trying to draw strong lines of correlation between appearance and eating meat, and just because she compared Sean Baker, who's 55 and a carnivore, and Dr. Greger, who's 49 and a vegan, and Dr. Greger looks older, she concluded from that it's not just genetics that causes you to look older. And then she was talking about muscle atrophy in vegans. And yeah, if you're not eating right and you're not exercising, you'll lose muscle mass. And she just, but the logic that she was using was completely unfounded. But then she said the following. I have been a vegan until my health deteriorated very, very much. I have reversed all my ailments with a 100% carnivorous diet. So, she just kept on going in that vein. She said she was a carnivore since 2017, and all of her Blood markers have become much better. Inflammatory markers, triglycerides, liver, HbA1c, and above all, my arthritic pains are gone. Period pains are gone. Early menopause was reversed. My asthma is gone. Yes, completely gone after over 20 years of suffering. My Hashimoto's is gone. It's undetectable. You can call it a miracle. I do. So she doesn't know or didn't explain why, what condition she has, and I think she just doesn't know, that causes her to need to eat meat. But in her case, veganism made her very ill, and eating animals, and her claim 100% carnivore, made her well. And she said she's convinced that I'm going to get sick down the road because she has known vegans who were very ill from being vegan. So I just want you to understand that there are conditions where eating meat is important for you and where veganism is bad for you. So that is why, I try to always remember to say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not any kind of a healthcare expert. I'm self-taught. I'm learning as I'm going along. I'm sharing these videos with people so that other people are aware of this information. And so if you have health issues, you should be talking to a healthcare professional, best off in conjunction with a nutritionist or dietitian who is registered and is knowledgeable. Now, again, you may come into conflict between the two of them because if the doctor doesn't know about nutrition, you're getting all your information from the nutritionist may not know enough about medicine, and so there can be conflict there. But that is, obviously, ultimately, the best choice is to find a doctor who is also a dietitian or nutritionist, because that way they can combine their medical knowledge with their nutrition knowledge, which is something all doctors should be able to do, but can't because in most countries doctors are taught very little about nutrition. So I hope that this will help. So those of you who feel like, you know what, I just don't feel well when I don't eat meat, or if you have MS or rheumatoid arthritis and stuff, you may do better on a diet like Dr. Wall's diet, or you may do better eating meat. Everybody is different. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.